Hey everybody, Rick here. I know that this video is going up pretty late, like after Robot of Sherwood already aired late. It's been a bit of a crazy week. I didn't get a chance to sit down and do these yet. So I think what we're going to do is today we're going to have the without spoilers video. Tomorrow we'll have the with spoilers video. And then the 2 days after that we'll get Robot of Sherwood's without and with spoilers videos. After that we should be able to keep pretty well to getting those out by, Sunday, maybe Monday at the latest. But yeah, so time to get into our next without spoilers video, since you guys, seem to like the first one a lot, or at least you didn't hate it. So let's keep it going. Into the Dalek. Attention! Okay, so Into the Dalek is sort of Stephen Moffat's turn to establish the character of the 12th Doctor. The second episode is always the one where, we've had the sort of introduction and sort of the basic, like, all right, here's what the Doctor's probably going to be, but the second episode is usually where it really seals the identity and the personality of the Doctor. It helps that, the first episode usually has them being all wacky because they're still finishing their regeneration, but it's interesting because this episode is sort of a mashup of a lot of different episodes from the past, especially those Second Doctor episodes. Unrelated to the Second Doctor episodes, this one feels the most like Dalek from Series 1 with Christopher Eccleston. They arrive in Utah in 2012, and they come upon a lone Dalek that's been found by the Collector, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head.
Like you don't know.
This is Mr. Henry Van Statten.
And easy when he's at home.
Mr. Van Statten owns the internet.
Don't be stupid, no one owns the internet.
And let's just keep the whole world thinking that way, right, kids?
I was always kind of hoping in 2012 that they were going to go back to that plot or refer to it or something, but I guess they decided not to. This one feels really similar. There's a lot of similarities in the plot and in the characterization, and I would assume it's not a spoiler to suggest that an episode called Into the Dalek involves a Dalek. And it does. It involves more than one Dalek, but it's primarily focused on this one Dalek. But I mentioned, it's got a lot of similarities to those second episodes. It's sort of its own little mini genre in Doctor Who. It has a lot of similarities and even references the very first second episode, which was the second serial of the first series of Doctor Who back in 1963, called The Daleks, with William Hartnell as the first Doctor. Before, I think we had mentioned a little bit last time, or maybe I did it in the with spoilers one, that the first serial the Doctor was in, he actually was considering murdering a caveman to get himself out, even though there were 100 other ways to do it without actually killing him. Similar to how the first episode with the 12th Doctor is like the first serial with the first Doctor, same thing here. There's a lot of similarities, and they actually reference that interaction on Skaro, where the Doctor first met the Daleks, and I was kind of hoping we might actually get to see a magnetically powered Dalek. That's how they in the 60s, at least for the first encounter, it was sort of this little band of Daleks. It wasn't, a Dalek fleet or anything, and they were powered by running on electrically charged floors like go-karts. Or I guess those ones are more the wires in the ceiling, but you get the idea. It's they're getting charged through the floor, and that's how they move around. I was really, really hoping that, the Dalek would be powered that way, but they didn't do it. There's a lot of similarities there. There's a lot of similarities to The Beast Below. You have the same sort of moral quandary going on as The Beast Below, to the 11th Doctor with Amy. There's even, a scene that almost feels like a direct shout out to it, which is pretty awesome. It also takes a lot of cues from other Dalek stories, which makes sense. It's sort of over time, all these different Dalek stories have been forming a sort of subplot unto themselves. But this actually borrows from a lot of the older Dalek stories as well. Both Genesis of the Daleks and Parting the Ways, which I think was probably inspired at least partially by Genesis of the Daleks, both have a similar feel to what's happening here. There's a lot of gravity, mostly surrounded by the Doctor and how he views the Daleks. Most of these episodes with the Daleks so far have been how the Daleks view the Doctor or how the Daleks view themselves. We had the Cult of Skaro for a while in the first 4 seasons and how they dealt with themselves and humans and the rest of the Daleks. But this is the first time where how the Doctor feels about the Daleks actually is a major thing. And you know, it's not hard to guess how he feels about Daleks. He's gone to the brink of just flat-out murder on a couple occasions because of the Daleks, and even, you know, the Meta-Crisis 10th Doctor decided to straight up kill them all.
What have you done? Fulfilling the prophecy.
You know, so we have a sense that the Doctor, you know, isn't a big fan of them. But what we wind up getting is this really awesome adventure story that feels... It feels definitely not like one story. You know, you sort of have 2 different stories going on. One of them is focused on, you know, a Dalek, and the other one's focused on the Doctor. They're taking place in the same space, but they're really not the same story. We also get to see Danny Pink for the first time in what is honestly just a strange introduction. Like, they give us a shitload of introduction and exposition just right away. Just boom, 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 boom. For about like 7 minutes, we just get these 4 scenes, one after the other, just about him. I mean, we get to see that he's, you know, we get to see that he's a soldier, which you know, is played up pretty quick. It's not a spoiler. It's literally like the first thing we see of him is doing some like cadet training. But so he used to be a soldier, and you know, he's also a teacher. And he's also weirdly awkward in some situations. It's a little unexpected. He seems to have pieces of his personality that don't really match up with other pieces of it. But, you know, so we get introduced to him a little bit. You don't get a huge amount. I think they're trying to build him up slowly, which, you know, maybe that's working, maybe that's not. I don't know. They built him up pretty fast right away, and it sounds like they're, you know, working on that foundation from here. We also have some really strange science in this episode, even for Doctor Who, and I know that's saying something. They're usually, like, they'll go out of their way and do this weird science-y stuff, and it's just like, oh, meta-babble, whatever, it works. And we kind of accept it and move on. And that's fine, but we get some in this episode that just, it takes that plausibility and just goes a little further out with it. It's like just past the edge of what is, I don't know, believable, not even believable, just like suspension of disbelievable, disbelievably suspendable, I guess we can call it. It doesn't like ruin the episode or anything. We're kind of used to at this point. It's a story about a guy who can, you know, put a new face on, be young or be old by choice, and has a hard time dying and flies around in a box that's not the right size. I think we can let it go. I guess we kind of got used to, you know, the 9th Doctor didn't explain much, but he did explain now and then. And the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor loved explaining stuff. They loved just looking smart and saying all these things. The 12th Doctor, I mentioned at the start, you know, he's got this identity thing. He's starting to form his real identity. And we're starting to see he's kind of got this very first and third Doctor-y sort of thing about him. It's like if you took the first Doctor's attitude and put it on the third Doctor, you'd have roughly what 12 is. He's sort of like, he's a grandfather who is normally kind of gruff and just, you know, not very happy, whatever, but he likes to entertain too, and he still likes to look smart, and he still likes to make jokes. It's funny because, you know, in a couple spots in this episode, we see a little bit of 11 peeking out now and then. He makes a couple puns.
Ah, a bolt hole.
He'll get us out of here. The difficult part is not killing him before he can.
Bolt hole. Actually, a hole for a bolt. Does nobody get that?
For no reason other than to make a really cheap joke, but he doesn't say it in a funny way. He says it in this like kind of sarcastic, biting kind of way. It's pretty funny. But so, you know, you get these little bits and pieces of him where he's like making jokes, but not in a like boom, whoa, energetic kind of way, the same as 10 or 11. It's sort of like, I'm going to drop this joke, I'm going to put it right here, and when you get over there, you're going to see it and you're going to laugh. And it's like, oh, all right. It's a neat characterization. I enjoy it. I didn't dislike 10 or 11 at all. I liked them quite a bit, but there were definitely times when the goofiness was a little bit much. So it's nice to see him pull it back a little bit and do a little more think about it humor. But all in all, I'd say it's a fun episode. There's a little peak of something that'll string into whatever the season arc is shaping up to be, but it's not anything major. We get the first real indication of the Doctor and Clara's relationship as Doctor and carer, as she puts it.
Yeah, my carer. She can, so I don't have to.
And it's nice to see that relationship forming. But beyond that, it's not the best episode by any means. And if I had to rank this among all of the Moffat episodes, not even the ones that he's written, but just like the ones that he's I think this was like Phil Ford and Stephen Moffat together wrote this one, but out of everything since Matt Smith, I have to admit this would rank pretty low. It's not bad by any means. It's just, I don't know, it was a little bit more self-contained and a little bit less amazing than I originally thought. And there was the episode got leaked a little while back, an unfinished black and white version of it, and there was a scene that ultimately got deleted from the episode, which thank God they didn't include, because honestly I think that scene, and I'll probably talk about it during the With Spoilers review, I think that scene would have actually ruined the episode for me, like entirely. So I'm glad they didn't put that in there. All in all, it's a good episode. It's just not great, and that's okay. I'm not necessarily expecting Robot of Sherwood to be anything amazing either. Doctor Who's kind of conditioned me to wait for the premiere, the finale, and like the mid-season whoa moment, and then everything else on the sides is just kind of nice build-up. Season 6 had that same sort of problem, where the early parts of the season were kind of boring, and the late parts of the season were a little bit rough too, but like the middle was really solid, and the ends were really good too. It's worth watching. It's not going to be the best of the series by any means. I don't think it's going to necessarily be the worst either. Obviously, we're not going to know until the rest of the season comes out, but all in all, it's an okay. I'd give it like a B-. It had some really cool ideas and thoughts in there, some of which worked, some of which didn't. I'll elaborate a little more in the spoilery review. Now for a segment that I thought would be a really cool addition to our reviews. So right now our with and without spoilers reviews are kind of similar, so I thought I'd add something to make them a little bit more distinguishable. So for each of these with spoilers reviews, at the end I'm going to give you guys a little homework. So there are 4 episodes that you should probably watch before watching this episode to get the full experience, all right? Some of them more important than others. The first one you should watch is from Series 1, Dalek. All right, it's Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor coming up against a Dalek for the first time since the Time War. This episode is sort of a spiritual successor to that in more ways than one, so definitely, absolutely watch that episode. Number 2 is Let's Kill Hitler from Series 6. It's Matt Smith along with Amy Pond and Rory Williams, and it has nothing to do with Daleks in any way, but the machinery and some of the science that go on there feel very similar to this one. I think they drew a lot of inspiration from that episode, and I think that was also written by Stephen Moffat. Number 3 is Asylum of the Daleks, the Series 7 premiere. Also Matt Smith is the 11th Doctor, still with Amy and Rory. We also get our first glimpse at Clara, and it deals a lot with, it deals with the Daleks. It deals with a sort of trapped situation. You get to see how the Doctor and Daleks' history have actually affected each other. It's some really, really good stuff there. It has a lot to do with, the madness of, things being turned into Daleks and all this craziness. And the 4th one, not necessarily the most important, but it'll certainly add a little bit of information when it comes up in this episode. But from Season 1, back 1963, The Daleks, the first interaction between the Doctor and the Daleks, with William Hartnell as the first Doctor, and Barbara and Ian and Susan. It's a little hard to get through, the 60s Doctor Who episodes were very campy sci-fi, but it'll inform a lot more about what's happening in the emotions in this episode. And with that, I think that's going to be it for this review. I think I think I didn't miss too much of what I wanted to talk about. I think the with spoilers one, there's going to be a lot more to say. And when you come back next time, in a day or two, we'll have Robot of Sherwood. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.